One of the featured matches set to take place at Elimination Chamber, could be the main event, we don't know yet, is, of course, the men's Elimination Chamber match. And it will feature 6 men who have already qualified for their shot at potentially facing Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. And we know who those 6 men are going to be. It's going to be Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, Kevin Owens, LA Knight, and Logan Paul. So an interesting mix here. If you go back, we did some other videos on the channel as the qualifiers were happening, and you wondered if there was going to be kind of one of those scenarios where, let's say, an Ivar upsets, LA Knight or something based on interference from AJ Styles, all those things that we had kind of seen, LA Knight be someone who played a factor in Styles not qualifying and all those things. So you wonder if you're going to get a couple of those kind of people in here, right? A Bronson Reed, who was someone that seemingly, I made the prediction. I said, I think Bronson Reed's going to beat Bobby Lashley because it's in Australia. And you're thinking, okay, you get a Bronson Reed in here, something like that. But what Triple H and WWE decided to do here is pretty clear. They decided to stack this match with as many, sort of upper tier, former champion types, and Owens, a Lashley, Orton, obviously McIntyre. And then, of course, you've got an LA Knight in there who's as popular as anybody. You've got Logan Paul, who can play, the heel role as well as anybody as your United States champion, sort of teasing the double champion thing with him. So I think from that standpoint, that they certainly decided, hey, this is a stadium event. This is a PLE in a stadium where we know we're filling a lot of seats. This needs to be a huge, huge match. You can't just maybe go, like I said, whether some of the upsets that could have been predicted, like an Ivar winning via, someone like that interfering, right? An Ivar just kind of gets there because AJ Styles interferes and all that kind of stuff. All those kind of things. So I think that is something that when you look at kind of the way this match could play out now, you've got a lot of realistic possibilities, even though, as I'm going to mention, I think there's one clear cuts favorite here, but you got a lot of possibilities just based on kind of the past accomplishments. And so they can play it up that way as we lead into this match coming up on Saturday. And I'm curious to see, too, how they tie everything together in terms of pushing WrestleMania 40, because this is it, right? This is the last stop, minus the Raw and SmackDowns on the road to WrestleMania 40. And so you've got to start to build some of those other feuds as well that aren't necessarily going to factor into the winner. And, of course, to me, that means there are a couple ideas here. So you certainly have the rumored match out there that at one point the plan was to do LA Knight challenging Logan Paul for the United States Championship. Would be LA Knight's huge triumph, right? First big singles title. And I know there's a lot of people who think, well, maybe that's kind of beneath LA Knight now, because his popularity is so high that does he really need to be going for the United States Championship? Well, it can be something to where, look, whoever the title's on, right, you can automatically raise the value of the title. So even if you look at the United States title as something where, all right, it's a secondary belt, doesn't really mean a whole lot, whatever, however your opinions are of it. If you put it on LA Knight, if he beats Logan Paul, well then, okay, automatically it raises the stock of the title. It feels much more important. And we know, too, Triple H has always been this way. You think back kind of in the era, I don't know what, a decade ago, where it's like the Intercontinental title. What does it mean? It means nothing, right? The United States title means nothing. The secondary championships were not pushed as important in any way. But what has he done since then? As Triple H has taken over, he's reestablished the importance of the Intercontinental title. Gunther's got a 600-plus day reign going. All of a sudden, you put the U.S. title on LA Knight, boom. Not that Logan Paul hasn't been a good champion, because I think it just made a lot of sense at the time for them to put the title on him, because there's a lot of, obviously, popularity you can get outside of just WWE and everything with that. But if you put it on LA Knight, that becomes kind of the next step for him towards being a world champion. And you can put a lot of kind of fun programs together to where it's not just LA Knight wrestling mid-card, lower mid-card people, right? You can put two top-tier stars battling for a U.S. title. It makes it feel a lot more important. So my question here in this particular Elimination Chamber match is, how does that factor in? What are the exchanges? Because we know we're going to get one between LA Knight and Logan Paul. How does that factor into maybe building towards a potential singles match between the two at WrestleMania 40? I have to assume we're going to get something that sort of leads to that direction, if that's where they're going, because otherwise you've got to ask the question, what are the other matches available, right? I don't know if they're going to do the Kevin Owens Logan Paul rematch at WrestleMania 40, because then it's okay. What is LA Knight's plan? Is it going to go back to AJ Styles? Although, didn't they just say that they're basically done with that? I don't know if they're going back to it. Maybe they are. But that's another option. Maybe it's Owens versus Paul at WrestleMania 40. It's Knight versus Styles. I'm not sure, because I think, again, if you really want to kind of go that route of giving Knight the biggest stage of the year to capture that singles title and sort of have him, seemingly try to reposition the title a little bit to where, like I said, it feels a lot more important having it on someone like him. Not to say Logan Paul is not a star, but LA Knight's one of the biggest stars in the company when you look at the way that moving merch and all that sort of stuff, right? So that's one of the sidebars you could have here in this particular match. The whole Lashley and Kevin Owens thing, those two probably, feel like the clear-cut sort of underdogs here, right? I mean, I don't think people are giving them a lot of chances as to winning this match, but how do they factor into it? We know Lashley's been part of, chamber matches before. We know all the kind of the history there, and so I just wonder what are going to be the things that are they just kind of there to again be former champions who kind of raise the prestige of the match a little bit, and that's about it, right? There's not a whole lot more to it. Maybe we don't get the storyline development with those two in particular. If again, it's not Owens being more involved with LA. I was going to call him LA Paul. Someone else, another create a character, I guess you could say, with that. But if it's not him, interacting with Logan Paul, which we'll get, if that's not what they're building towards, what's next for Kevin Owens? What's next for Bobby Lashley? All those kind of things. So those two, I'm not really sure how we're going to get that sort of put together in this match. I'm not sure how they're going to book it, because it does seem like not that I think Logan Paul or LA Knight are going to win, but I just feel like, Owens and Lashley, I'm more curious than anything, because I'm not exactly sure what direction they're going to go in terms of maybe how they book the match. Are those going to be like the first two guys eliminated, or how does it kind of all unfold there? But the reason why is because I think the big attention on this match is going to be on Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. And, of course, Orton's coming off of the opportunity in the four-way match, just like LA Knight and AJ Styles, who's not in this match. Although, like I said, I could see Styles getting involved here some way, shape, or form, even outside the chamber. But Orton's coming off of that. There's obviously, a lot of momentum behind Randy Orton right now. Although, as I've said before, I think the biggest direction we're going to get from Orton, or maybe the biggest match we're going to get from him in this return, and maybe, towards an eventual retirement, is going to be the match with Cody eventually. I think you get there somehow, some way. That's going to be, probably via an Orton heel turn, however you want to do it. But it's not right now, and I don't think that's going to be the direction. There's just too much going on, as we know, on the Cody story heading into this WrestleMania. So that's something they can always say for the summer and beyond. But he does have history with Drew McIntyre, and playing up that history between, Orton and McIntyre. Of course, as I'm recording this, we know McIntyre and Knight are going to kind of go at it on SmackDown. So you know that they've been able to kind of push everything together, and we know there's history too, right, between all these different guys in here. But the Orton-McIntyre history was directly involved with that championship run that Drew McIntyre had. So I think this is one where, predictions-wise, it seems very simple, doesn't it? I just don't know how I could pick against anyone, how I could pick anyone other than Drew McIntyre in this thing, because I just feel like this is Drew's time to shine. It just feels like everything they've done with Drew. If you want to watch a video I've done on the channel here recently, I said it, like, Drew McIntyre is doing the absolute best work of his career right now. And I think he will get that spot against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40. The Damian Priest cash-in is always sitting in the background. Will it happen? We'll see when that happens. If that is around WrestleMania time, before or after, whatever. But I just think this is a match where they have loaded up, and it made sense because, like, if you put guys in there, just have absolutely zero chance, who have not maybe been to that world championship level, it's really anticlimactic, right? But at least having some of these guys, like I said, an Owens, a Lashley, even an Orton, I mean, guys like this who are proven former champions, that at least adds a little bit of suspense. Although, like I said, I think most people are certainly going to point in the direction of Drew McIntyre and feel like this is his match to lose, because everything seems to be pointing towards Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins for the world title at WrestleMania 40. And so my prediction will be Drew McIntyre winning this match. But because it is one that just feels so obvious, it's always about how do they get there, right? And how do they put all these pieces together? Who are the people that get involved on the outside? Because even though it's a chamber match, we just always assume someone's going to find a way to get involved. Whether it's for the heels, whether it's something afterwards, somebody gets eliminated, the door opens, all those things, right? Like there are a lot of ways they could go with this, but it still feels like a big match because you've got a lot of good talent in here. I'm sure there's going to be some awesome sort of spots in this match. Logan Paul on one of the pods, probably something that's going to happen. A lot of fun stuff you could do here with these 6 in particular, but to me, it's got to be Drew McIntyre because I don't see any other combination where anyone else gets the victory and heads to WrestleMania because McIntyre has all the momentum right now. He's one of the best characters, like I said, in WWE at this point, the best work of his career. So Drew McIntyre is going to be my pick to win the Elimination Chamber, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about how this thing could unfold. Give me your predictions in the comments below. Who wins? Do you also think it's very obvious it's going to be McIntyre? But even if it is, who's going to be the last person in there with him? Is it probably Orton? I would say that's probably the best bet. Maybe it's LA Knight, but I think it's going to be Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre in the final 2. What other kind of side stories do you see here in this match? Do you see the build towards LA Knight versus Logan Paul? Do you see AJ Styles get involved here somewhere? Maybe do we get Randy Orton and AJ Styles at WrestleMania? Does Orton face Solo, someone like that? Maybe you get Orton's clear WrestleMania opponent coming out of this match. All sorts of possibilities, but I'd love to know what you guys think. So again, hit me up in the comments, let me know. And as always, hit that subscribe button. New channel here. Just enjoy talking wrestling, so would love to hear your thoughts on everything surrounding 2024 Elimination Chamber, which will take place this Saturday in Perth, Australia.